When it came to Song Dynasty, the pursuit for refinement of tea drinking reached its peak and became a ceremonial activity. Song Dynasty inherited the usage of tea cakes but abandoned the method of frying for cooking. There are a lot of preparations before cooking. First, the tea cake should be chapped. If preserved for years, the cakes should be soaked in boiling water for a while to dispel about 1 liang of grease. If it is a cake of the same year, it can be ground into powder directly. Some people choose narrow-necked bottle to boil water, and the water was better to be boiled just twice. Before cooking, the tea cups should be warmed with slow fire for fear that the boiling water poured into the cup would quickly cool down. Then put the ground tea powder into the cup and add little boiling water to mix them into the shape of cream. Then slowly add more water and keep stirring it with a little brushing broom to create froth. Some people like the original taste of tea leaves and sneered at people adding salt, ginger, or other condiments into tea. This opinion is still like this at present. The ceremony of tea drinking reached its height in Song Dynasty. Men of literature and writing not only held tea parties frequently, but competed in their skill at cooking tea in those parties. These were called contests of tea or competition of men, which were in vigor of quite a while. During Tang and Song, the tribute tea exclusive for royal use was all cake tea, and tea cakes in Song were especially delicate. After the leaves were steamed and dried, they were ground with water and adjusted into glue. Only then were they put into molds to mold it into shape. Raw tea or cake tea made in this way was of various shapes: square, round, oval, platen, etc. There were various vivid patterns on the surface as well. After the molding, cakes had to be baked from 6 to 15 times before they were drenched with hot water to make their color fresh and bright. Finally, the drenched cakes were put into a sealed room to be fanned to cool rapidly. The next day, they should be baked and dried with slow fire. Only after all these steps was the beautiful and wonderful tea cake at last completed. The tribute tea in Song was mostly in the pattern of dragon and phoenix, called dragon and phoenix cake. Each tribute tea could only be presented for 5 years. After 5 years, new types should be developed. So, local officers in charge of the collecting of tea always racked their brains to design something new. Cai Xiang, writer of Record of Tea, succeeded in inventing the more delicate small dragon cake based on the original big dragon cake. 20 small dragon cakes weighted about 0.5 kilo, worth as much as 1/10 kilo of gold. Afterwards, a man named Jia Qing invented Miyun dragon tea, since every step in the making process was made as perfect as possible. This new kind of tea cake was greatly favored by the king for its refinement and delicacy. It even brought the king some troubles. Miyun dragon tea was produced in a small amount. After sacrificed to the ancestors and enjoyed by the king of Song, there wasn't much left. However, it was so exquisite and renowned that royal relatives and close ministers always asked the king for some. The king was very annoyed by the constant importuning, so he gave orders to stop the production of this tea. After this, Miyun dragon tea was even more expensive. In spite of its easy preservation, tea cake is time and energy consuming when being made, and inconvenient when being drunk, so it was less and less welcomed. What is more, leaves will lose part of their juice in the process of being made into cakes and are easy to produce grease, which is hardly acceptable for the tea lovers who attach much importance to their tranquility and natural charm of tea. Therefore, after Yuan dynasty, the natural taste of tea was getting more and more attention. Taking over the regime from Yuan, the first emperor of Ming dynasty, Zhu Yuanzhang, abolished the complicated and costly cake tea and accepted only loose tea as tribute. In order to restore the country from the after-war state of ruin, he also advocated cooking tea with full leaves rather than grinding leaves into powder. A man named Lu Shusheng in Ming Dynasty wrote a book of Jasmine, in which he specifically pointed out the ways of cooking tea. In summer, boiled water should be poured into the apparatus before leaves were put in for fear the water would burn the leaves to be wrapped. In winter, leaves came in before hot water for fear low water temperature couldn't bring out the taste of tea. Accordingly, Ming people changed their tea apparatus from big pot to small pot, because in big pot, tea taste dispersed too quickly, while small pot could better keep its fragrance. In this way, with Zhu Yuanzhang's earnest advocacy, loose tea soon took the position of cake tea. By the middle of Ming Dynasty, the once highly fashionable tea cake and competitions of Ming already belonged to the past, almost completely out of existence. Loose tea was not an invention of Ming people, because the frying green method of making loose tea was recorded as early as in Tang Dynasty. Though the technique of frying green was perfected in Ming, frying green was far less complicated than steaming green. but there was still much to pay attention. First, 2 should not be unused arum pan, which had the smell of arum. Second, the pan should not be tainted with oil, for the flavor of tea was thin and weak and could be easily spoiled by oil. When frying green, the pan should be first warmed with slow fire, and then leaves were put into it. The amount of tea leaves should not be too large at a time, only about 0.5 kilo. Wooden fingertips should be used when frying green. Quick stirring and frying made sure that the leaves were evenly heated. Meanwhile, fans were used to let out the heat in time. When leaves were done, they were spread thinly on a dustpan, fanned to cool, and softly kneaded and twisted to let the tea oil thoroughly emerge. In the end, twisted leaves were put back into the pan and baked and dried with slow fire. Heating is a crucial factor in steaming green or frying green. Too big fire edges and withers the teas, while too small fires can't dispel the grass smell and can't fully keep the tea fragrance. Therefore, our ancestors set many regulations about fire. For instance, when frying green, it's better to choose branches as fuel rather than dry leaves. For dry leaves burn and gut out very quickly, which makes it difficult to control the temperature. In order to better control temperature, some people should suggest using charcoal fire, particularly when baking and drying. It goes in the myths that tea attracted the recognition and advocacy of Shen Nong for its capability to detoxify. Maybe it's because of this that has long kept Chinese people's favor for its medical value. The famous literature Sima Xiangru of Western Han has recorded 20 cans of medicine of Sichuan, tea being one of them. A celebrity in the Southern Dynasty drank a dou, a Chinese measurement unit, about 10 liters of tea a time, was jokingly called by people as Lou Zhi, meaning bottomless cup. Why did he drink so much tea? Contemporary people believed that tea could not only make drunken people sober up and keep people awake, but could remove tiredness and keep people strong and energetic. It could also help people dispel anxiety or irritation and even elevated them to be celestial. An emperor of Sui dynasty fell ill, and a monk told him that tea could cure his disease. The famous doctor of Ming dynasty, Li Shizhen, wrote in his compendium of Materia Medica, "Tea is bitter and cold, the coldest of colds and most able to subdue human heat. Once the heat goes, the body goes right." As a result, for many years, tea is not only a drink, but is also used as a cheap herbal medicine.